Finance Core, Topic 10, International Corporate Finance. Readings include Chapter 20, International Corporate Finance from Core Principles. Learning objective number 1, we're going to interpret and use currency quotes to convert FX transactions. So to do that, I want to talk about one of my favorite commodities in the world, a Starbucks latte. And let's talk about a transaction of buying a latte. Whenever you buy a good, it's really an exchange of two commodities. I will give Starbucks a commodity of $1 or a few dollars, and Starbucks will give me a latte. So whenever you have an exchange, you can either quote the price in the one good or the other. So for example, when I buy my small Starbucks latte, they'll say the price is $3.30 per latte. That is a direct price quote, $3.30 in exchange for one latte. This would be called a direct quote for an American in dollars. However, there's no reason why we couldn't quote it the other way. What if we quote it and say that the indirect quote is I could have exchanged $1 for 0.303 lattes. So if I just take my 3.30 lattes, $3.30 per latte, and I invert that, I get 0.303. So I can either say that $1 is worth 0.303 lattes, or I can say one latte is worth $3.30. So the latte price of $1, which is the second example here, that would be called an indirect quote for a latte for an American. Luckily, lattes are always quoted in direct terms. Now, when we start buying foreign currencies, it's the same principle. So here's another one of my favorite commodities in the world. It's a euro. Right? Euros buy me wine in Paris and beer in Germany. So the price of this euro, say, is $1.10. That would be a direct quote for an American for €1. Now I can also take 1 over 110, invert it, and say you can exchange €1 for $0.909. I'm sorry, $1 for 0.909 euros. So that's an indirect quote for a euro for an American. That is, it's 0.909 euro cents per $1. So again, that's an indirect quote for a euro for an American. Luckily, like lattes, euros are usually quoted in direct terms. In other words, the dollar price of one unit. And that's along with several other commodities or currencies. Australian dollar, British pound, and New Zealand dollar are generally quoted in direct terms, dollar price of one unit of that foreign currency. However, most other currencies are in indirect terms. So let's talk about another great commodity, the Danish crown or Danish krone. Most people just say the crown. So I love Danish crown. I can buy pickled herring in Copenhagen with a beer. And let's talk about the price of 1 crown. So the direct quote would be 16 cents per crown, $16.16 per crown. That's a direct quote for an American. However, I could flip 1 over and take 1 over 16 and say you can exchange 6.25 crown for $1. So that's an indirect quote for an American for a crown, 6.25 crown per dollar. It's still the price of a crown, but it's really quoted as the price of $1. It's a crown price of $1. Unfortunately, most of the currencies in the world are quoted in this crazy way of an indirect quote. And you can think about how crazy it is. Like if you went into your favorite food store and maybe the price of eggs are quoted in dollars, but in milk, it's really the milk price of $1. So all other major currencies and all other currencies besides the one mentioned on the last slide are usually in indirect terms. So how do you know what currency you're looking at, whether it's direct or indirect? Well, there is a kind of a secret way that these currencies are communicated. The one thing you need to understand is every currency has a 3-character code. So the US dollar is the USD, the euro is the EUR. And whenever you see a code or currency a quote, you'll generally see those two currency codes, those 3-character codes, kind of smushed together. Either, so say for the dollar to euro exchange rate, you might see EUR-USD or EUR-USD smushed together, or EUR/USD, They're all trying to communicate that you're about to get the euro-dollar exchange rate. Now, what you don't know is are you about to look at the dollar price of a euro or a euro price of a dollar? And I'll show you how it's almost always represented if they use those codes. Actually, it's always represented that way. I haven't seen it elsewhere. So here's a Bloomberg screenshot of exchange rates. And in the first row, you see EUR-USD, and then it shows a value of $1.08, or just says 1.08. So how do I know that's $1.08 and not a 1.0 euros per dollar? So how you know that is the order of the currency codes. It says EUR, then USD. Whenever you see two currency codes together, the first one tells you, it's called the base code, and it tells you this is the currency you're about to get a price of. The second code, USD, tells you what you're about to be quoted in. So EUR USD would be the dollar price of a euro. Now, GBP, that is the British pound. If it was EUR-GBP, that would be the pound price of 1 euro. EUR USD is the dollar price of 1 euro. So again, the first code is about what you're about to get the price of, and the second one is what it's quoted. So it's the base currency and then the quote currency. So GBP USD is the US dollar price of a pound, which was $1.50 on that date. I think it's closer to $1.25 now. Now the next currency code is indirect, because it says USD JPY. So it's the price of $1 quoted in yen, and then it has a number of 119. So that must be 119 yen per dollar, versus the first two were dollar prices of the euro and pound. The next one, AUD USD. AUD is the Australian dollar, also just affectionately known as the Aussie. And so it's the price of an Aussie quoted in dollars. So that would be the dollar price of an Aussie, $0.78. Next one, USD CAD, CAD. That's the price of a dollar quoted in CAD. It says 1.2. So that must be 1.2 Canadian dollars per 1 US dollar. CHF, that's a hard one because it doesn't really remind me of anything. Look at the carat codes, but that is the Swiss franc. It has something to do with kind of the French name of their government. So CHF is the Swiss franc, and that is the Swiss franc price of 1 US dollar. So that would be 0.95 Swissies per dollar. And there you see, actually, here's a currency code that doesn't have a dollar in it. Actually, the next couple are EUR GBP. So that's the pound price of 1 euro. So that would be the pound price of 1 euro, so 0.71 pounds per euro. The next one, EUR JPY, that would be the yen price of 1 euro. And then AUD JPY, that is the yen price of 1 Australian dollar. So that's how you determine what exchange rate you're looking for. One hint, if you ever need an exchange rate, you just Google it. And all you need to do is Google the three character codes. And if you want the price of the euro quoted in dollars, just type EUR USD, Google it. However, if you wanted the indirect quote, you could just type USD EUR. Google's actually smart enough that it knows what order you put it in. So EUR USD will give you the dollar price of the euro. USD EUR will give you the euro price of a dollar. Let's talk about currency conversions. So let's use the dollar Canadian exchange rate. That's always confusing to me because it's always a little bit over 1 or below 1. I'm never really sure which one I'm looking at. However, someone tells you that, or the internet tells you that the USD CAD exchange rate is 105. What that means is it's a Canadian dollar price of 1 US dollar. So we're going to talk about two transactions, or conversions. How many CAD can you exchange for 100 US dollars? So I'm going to set up an equation. I'm going to write in $100 times some exchange rate equals Canadian dollars. So I need an exchange rate to go from dollars to Canadian. I'm going to put in my line there and try to figure out what goes above and below. Well, I'm going to put dollars below and CAD above. So I need a Canadian price per one US dollar. So what happens is, in effect, the dollars cancel out and the Canadians go across. This is the Canadian dollar per dollar exchange rate. So I'm going to do 100 times 1.05 equals 105 CAD. But the next problem says how many dollars can you exchange for 100 Canadian? So I'm going to type in 100 CAD times some exchange rate equals dollars. Well, in this case, I need dollars over CAD. So in some sense, the CAD cancel out. Dollars go forward, except I'm not given the dollar price of a CAD. I'm given the CAD price of a dollar is 105. So I'll just flip that and say I'm going to multiply times 1 over 1.05. Or some people just say that anytime you know you need to flip the exchange rate, you could have just divided 100 CAD divided by 1.05. In both cases, you get 95.24. So that's how you convert one currency to another. And the last thing we'll talk about are cross rates. Say you're flying from London to Copenhagen and you want to buy 500 crown and sell some pounds you have in your pocket. So let's think about that transaction. I'm going to write down 500 crown times some exchange rate equals pounds. I then determined from the last slide I need a pound over crown exchange rate, the pound price of 1 crown. And unfortunately, I can't get that exchange rate directly. I Googled the exchange rates, or I'm at the airport or wherever I am, and everything's quoted in, say, dollars. So I have the dollar price of the pound, and I have the dollar price or the crown price of $1 US. And say those two quotes were these. It's $1.25 a pound, but 6.25 crown per dollar. Well, I need to make this conversion work, I need a pound over crown exchange rate. How I can do that is do a cross rate. Since both those currencies are quoted against a common currency, the dollar, I need pounds on top and crown on the bottom, so I just multiply a pound over dollar exchange rate times a dollar over crown exchange rate. My dollars cancel out, and I wind up with a pound over crown exchange rate. So the pound over dollar exchange rate would be 1 over 125. And the dollar per crown exchange rate will be 1 over 6.25. Again, that's just because the two quotes that were received are not in the terms that I needed. I needed a pound over dollar exchange rate, but that was a dollar, but it's $1.25 per pound. So I had to flip it, and I needed a dollar per crown exchange rate, but the one I was quoted is a crown per dollar exchange rate, so I'm going to flip it. So that's how I get that exchange rate, and then I can use that product of 1 over 125 times 1 over 625. I can use that to figure out how many pounds I could buy for 500 crown. So on that topic, we interpreted and used currency quotes to convert FX transactions.